Hi, this is Mashnu, and we're going to have a look at today's game. 45 minutes game played at chess.com, and I was playing this time against a player from the United States. His username is Notam Twain. Notam Twain. Yeah. He opened with d4, and we got a nice modern Benoni. Modern Benoni is an opening that often gives very sharp and complicated positions. I'm glad that he advanced the pawn. I see many players in this position playing something like e3 or knight f3 and things like that, and then, well, it's not really what black wants. It's then we can transpose to a Tarrasch defense, but it's not really that exciting. So I'm very happy that he did this, because then we get really an exciting game. Takes, d6, knight f3. There are many variations in the modern Benoni. He can play it with f3 or with f4. Knight f3 is a very solid way to play this. g6, e4, bishop g7, and now bishop to g5. An interesting move. I don't see this very often. It is a theoretical line, and I know that at this point the best thing that black can do is put a question to this bishop by playing h6. Put a question, what do you want to do with this bishop? On which diagonal do you want to have this bishop? Do you want to go to h4 to keep the pin on f6? Or do you want to retreat it back to e3 to be able to play queen to d2 and eventually take on h6 if that's possible? He went to h4. Now I castled. He played bishop to d3 now, and I went bishop g4. Often it's advisable for black to play bishop to g4 to get rid of this bishop. Actually, in some variations, white plays before black can play bishop g4, white plays h3, and then it becomes very difficult to develop that light square bishop. So actually I'm always happy when I can play bishop g4 and then trade this bishop for the knight on f3, because then you get more control over this central dark squares when the knight is gone. h3, so he took back with the queen, and now I played knight b to d7, ready to jump to e5. That's my idea, of course. He went queen to e2, so anticipating this knight move. And here I played rook to e8, placing the rook, attacking e4. It can be useful in the future to eventually prevent e4, e5 of white, or with the idea of playing a6, b5, b4, or c4 to see if I can attack this pawn on e4 somehow. He castled kingside now, and I played a6, preparing b5. He played bishop to g3 now, attacking d6, and I went queen to c7. Perhaps I should have done queen to e7. Queen to I'm not sure if this is better, queen to e7 instead of to c7, what I did. Because on c7, I mean, my thought now is that on e7 perhaps it's better because I can play later rook a to c8, and I don't, that rook is not being blocked by the queen, so I can have ideas with playing b5, c4, and then eventually have this rook on a strong place there. And I also, of course, have a new attacker against e4, although he can defend e4 quite easily. But I was doubting between those two squares, and I wasn't sure, and I played this one. And well, I don't know, perhaps there is not much difference. But anyway, he played a4 now to prevent b5, of course. So I went knight to h5. The bishop is attacked, must go to h2. Here I played knight to e5, and he went bishop to c2. And actually this knight on h5 looks a bit out of play, but the thing is that what I want to do is I want to play c4 followed by knight to d3 and then bishop to e5 somehow. So if these two dark squares, I'm sorry, dark square bishops are traded, then this knight can go perhaps to c4, and if you advance the f pawn, it can go to g3. So I have those ideas. I played c4 here right now, and he immediately played f4. I cannot play knight d3 right now, but I have a check on b6. I presume that my opponent missed that check. He wasn't paying that much attention, and he played f4 without being aware that I can have this in-between check here. The king must go to h1, of course, and then knight d3. If it took in the game, but let me return, because another option here for me was simply to leave the knight on e5 and to take immediately on b2, because then the knight on c3 is attacked. So that was also another option. Queen takes b1, and if he takes here, then I take on c3, and if he takes then here, I did calculate this during the game, and I thought I have a check here, forking king and queen, so he has to take, and then I retake with a queen. And here I thought perhaps I have bishop e5 after this, and a checkmate on h2. But then I thought, what if he advances this pawn? Then it's problematic. I cannot play bishop e5 because he promotes here with check. Oh, wait a minute. How does he prevent the checkmate? If I play this, and it takes, queen, rook takes. Oh, king g1, yes. And now if I give a check on h2, he can go to f2. So I would need to give a check here. And if he plays rook to f2, then I take on a1. But he can go back, and I can threaten again the checkmate, and we have a draw by move repetition. Okay, actually when I saw, let me return, this position, so after d7, I thought that I had to do something with my rook here, like rook d8, and then that gives him time to play something like rook f3. So that was the reason why I didn't go into this whole variation, but I did look for possibilities of using the dark square, the weakness of h2 and g3, to threaten a checkmate on h2. But it was a very long variation to calculate, and I didn't calculate it further than this position. And here I thought it doesn't work, and well, it leads to a draw. So if we move the pieces now. But anyway, instead of taking on b2, what I did is I played knight to d3, and he took on d3, I took back, he took with the queen, and now I took on b2. Well, slight difference. Now he played knight to e2, because the knight is attacked. Actually, after I had played queen takes b2, I started worrying a bit about e5. That looks strong, because if I take, he retakes, and if I take with the bishop, he takes again, I take with the rook, and then he can play rook a to b1, and then b7 falls, and he has this rook on the 7th rank attacking f7. We got something like this actually in the game, but in a different move order. There was a slight difference. I could prevent him from taking on b7, but I think this is perhaps stronger for white than what happened in the game, because now I have to move my queen to a3, and he can take on b7, and this looks very, very powerful. He doesn't have only this pass pawn, he has also attack against f7. I do have rook e7, by the way, but still I like white's position here. I like white's position. If he takes and I take back, he has perhaps immediately d6. My rook is bound to keep defending here a6. My queen is attacked. Queen, where do I go? Queen d7, queen e5, queen e6. I don't know, anyway, it's white attacking and black defending. Let me return to the game, because we left here, and here he played knight to e2, and what happened was that I played the queen to b4. Well, the rook on a1 is attacked by my bishop. If the rook moves, I take on e4. And if that happens, let's say a rook to b1, queen takes e4, then I'm much better. Because he doesn't have the option of advancing this e-pawn and creating a pass pawn. And here I find a pleasant position. a4 is still undefended. b7 it's not that big problem. If you trade queens and then takes on b7, no, then the knight's attacked. So knight g3 first, or knight c3. No, knight c3 is not possible because of my bishop. So knight g3 takes, rook takes a4. This is fine for me. This is a very good position for me. This pass pawn is will become dangerous, I think, and his pawn is weak on d5. Okay, let's return to the game. It's always nice to see all this, what could have happened, because here, so I had played queen to b4. The rook is attacked on a1, but he played now this same idea of e5, but just one move later. It still is a good move, I think, but it's just a little less powerful than one move before, because my queen is not longer on b2. That means that here I took, he took, I took, he took, I took again, and now after rook a to b1, I can go immediately back to e7 defending b7. That's the big difference. In the previous variation, the queen was on b2 in this position, so then I had only queen to a3, and then he can take on b7. And now I have queen to e7 defending b7. I didn't want to take, by the way, on a4 here, because then this is just inviting white to get big influence on the 7th rank. Can he take on b7, or do I have rook takes e2? Yeah, rook takes e2. Okay, so he cannot take on b7 right now. This idea of rook takes e2 with the fork on g3 happened also in the game, but in a different moment. I played queen e7, and then he played d6, queen d7, g4, and now I play rook takes e2. But let me return one more time. Let's finish what I was doing, because I thought I was saying that I don't want to take here because of rook takes b7, but then I have rook takes here, so perhaps here g4 is good as well. I don't know. Let's have a look. It's more or less the same, isn't it? If I take here, he takes here. Now my rook is attacked. Rook a to e8 or queen to c2. Oh, queen to c2 looks... Well, we get into this endgame that was similar to the endgame in the game that later appeared, this rook endgame, that somehow I do have more material, but his rooks are very active. Rook takes b7 here, and he can take on f7 after this, or advances d-pawn. Not very clear. Let's return to the game. I want to show you the rest of the game. Queen e7, d6, queen d7, now g4, Rook takes e2. Queen may not take, because then knight forks on g3 and I win the queen. So he takes on h5, and here I played queen to c6 check. I'm looking now at this other option, rook a to e8. This looks much stronger actually, with the idea of rook to e6, to e3. I mean, rook e3 is a big threat. That's a big threat. Rook f3 to defend, and then g5 or rook e1 check. Rook e1 check, and then takes, and then going back with the rook to e6 to capture here. Perhaps that's the way to play it. Check, check, king g2, rook e6, and now d6 falls. Oh no, wait a minute, he has takes. No, there's no danger with rook g3 or something like that. Yeah, this looks actually quite good. He pins my rook, but I can take here. He has a check on c8. Yeah, well, it's not that clear, because he takes here with check, and I put the rook in between. Now it's only one pawn that I have as an advantage, but with these queens on the board, it's not easy to play, because there are so many checks. Difficult. Oh, this would be very difficult to play. I mean, I do have advantage because of this pawn that I have, but it's not clear how this is going to end. It's a bit useless now to analyze it completely, because it's just this is too difficult for me at least. Let's return to the game. I'll return to the position after g takes h5 here. So the last move was pawn takes h5. I give this check on c6, and let me have a look. What happened here? Queen f3. Yeah, because if rook f3, that would be a mistake, because he places his rook in a pin. So then I would play rook to f2, and he has to play rook to f1 not to lose the rook. But then I can take here, and he must take back, and still this rook is pinned. So I have time to bring this rook here, and if he wants to avoid the pin now, then let me see. I can take on d6, he can take on f7, and I have I wanted to say I have an advantage, but it's not that clear again. These endgames are so difficult. Endgames with rooks and queens and an open board, open space and vulnerable kings. Oh, wait a minute. I have a tactic, I think. Check. If the king goes to a light square, like g2 or h1, I can give it... No. I wanted to say I can give a check here, but he has a rook f3 again. But then rook f6. Hey, wait a minute. Does it work if I give a check here? Rook f3, rook f6? Yeah, this works. So that means that white must go to a dark square. Check here. No, then there's this dangerous entrance of my rook. And now he gets into trouble. Yeah, he must get into trouble here. Check. Rook in between. I have a check on g5. A checkmate on g5. Queen in between. Then I have a check on g1. He must go here, and then I have g5. Checkmate. Okay. Let's just have a short look if the king goes here. This must lead to checkmate or to something well, even this is simply winning. Okay, so this would give me definitely chances. Let's return, because here he played queen to f3. I traded queens and we got into this endgame where I do have more material, but the problem is that this pass pawn on d6 is becoming quite dangerous. He played d7 immediately. I have only one move, and that's rook to d8 to stop that pawn. Now he took on b7. So actually my previous move, I'll just return here. I mean here in this position, rook b8 is actually doing nothing. That was not a good idea, because after he threatens with this d pawn, I have to go to d8, and then he can take on b7. So I lost a tempo there. Now king to f8. I wanted to go to e7, and that's what I did. King goes to g1, rook e4, attacking a4, king g2. I took the pawn. He played king to g3. I went back to e4. He went to f3, attacking my rook. I played f5. And I thought that there must be a way to win this, because I'm having two pawns advantage, and the only problem is this d7 pawn. I have no way to attack it one more time with my other rook. That's the problem. Then I would need my rook to be on g7 and my king on e6, but that's not easy to do. He went king rook a7, attacking my pawn on a6, rook e6 defending, king f4, and now it looks like my pawn on f5 has been advanced too much. It becomes a weakness now. I played rook f6. He gave a check on e3. I went to f7. He went back. I went back to e7. He offered me a draw here. I declined because I still wanted to look for something. I played h4, not really knowing how to win this, and it seems like it's simply a draw. I moved king e7. He gave the check and offered me a draw again, and I accepted here, because I really don't see a way to win it. I did calculate this, but then he takes here. I take back, then he gives a check here. I can take here, and then he takes there, and then we have a drawn position. This is not possible to win with only a pawns there. So it was an exciting game. The middle game and this tactical ideas were exciting, and the end game, I think I underestimated the danger of his d pawn. This d pawn that advances in the end game. It's I thought this would be possible to win, but it seems like it's the d pawn is just too strong. I was wondering, by the way, if I move my rook here, and it goes here, and then I move my rook, for example, here, and I can try to advance with my pawn. Would that lead to anything? He has this check again. And then king d6, rook a7. If I take, no, then rook d3 wins, so I cannot take there. And so if I take, no, I cannot take with the king. If I defend the a pawn, yeah, it looks still the same drawish endgame actually. Yeah, well, I'll just leave it up to here. It was an exciting game, very interesting. Actually, it would be interesting to analyze this endgame for a few hours, but it's just too long time to do it now. So thanks for watching, and I'll just see you next time. And thanks again. Bye bye.